Coming up, we've got Dr. Collison here in the Mojo podcast studio. Episode 1, talking about the origin story of Mojo Vitality, why he left corporate healthcare to focus more on the patient. So stick around. Coming up, Dr. Collison. We're here.
Indeed.
This is going to be episode 1. We filmed a few of these out of order, but we've got what? Women's health, testosterone in women. You did a podcast on this, but wanted to talk about, first of all, this is David, Dr. Collison there.
JC.
The origins of Mojo. We've been open about a month now, seeing patients. What's surprised you so far on our patient, what we were expecting and what's actually happened?
Well, we offer a variety of services advertised, and we seem to mostly be getting weight loss requests, mostly. And I've also seen that when we see a new patient, I figured I'd be spending 20 minutes with them, but it ends up being 30 to 45 minutes, which was a surprise.
That's because you like to talk.
Maybe. Maybe I just can't stop explaining things, or maybe I just need to cut it short. But, yeah, so I'm spending more time with the patient than I thought I would. And the focus really is on, losing weight and getting back into the gym.
How long were you able to focus on a patient in the private practice that you used to be part of that took insurance? Like, what was the typical patient time?
It was hard to push it past 15 minutes because of time constraints, and the difference even there compared to here is that, when those people would come up to the front window and check in and go through the process, they'd go through a couple of people before they'd get to me. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of formalities that were, that we had to fulfill for insurance reasons, CMS guidelines, all the rules of medicine. And here, when you check in, you just right in my room and we're immediately talking about the things you want to talk about. So the conversation is much more focused. And when I was talking to somebody in traditional practice, I had to ask a lot of things for documentation purposes. I was required to document to get into the system that the patient can care less about,
So overall, just it's the amount of time, the quality time that you get to talk to the patient is just different in nature. I mean, because when they were seeing you at your old practice, and it was nothing against that specific practice, but with the nature of insurance, do they kind of have a guideline of the rhythm and cadence of a visit and what's included and what isn't until you have the next appointment on your calendar? I mean, how much flexibility did you have there in a physician if someone was coming to your office for X, to talk? This was what they were there for, and you were going to treat that. Could you get into other topics very easily, or was it harder because of the nature of your...
You really had to stay in focus because you only had so much time. You're dealing with the expense of your office is so high because of all the fairies up front that had to do everything to make your job work. You really had to stay on point. For instance, if a guy had erectile dysfunction, I could sit there and go into the different type of blood pressure medicines that could cause it, or the smoking and the caffeine and the stimulants and why that works, the fight or flight response. I could go on all day, but all that stuff is interesting, but that doesn't help them out at all. So I really had to just kind of say, all right, well, this is what the deal is. You need to get on this or try this. These are your options. And if I were to sit there and say, well, if you were to lose weight and stay away from these foods and all that, get into the weeds of the things that really would help, but you really just don't have time for all that. Mm-hmm.
Why don't you have time?
Well, all right, let's put it this way. So, again, as you said, this has nothing to do with my practice. The people I worked with or my hospital, they were all just fine. It was just the system. So, what if you think about it, to keep my office open at one time, I calculated it cost me $400 or $500 an hour just to open the door between 8 o'clock till 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. Yeah. That wheel's always going. You think about how much money that is. Yeah. And so when you were to see a patient, you're only going to get so much reimbursement. Right. You already know what that is. From the insurance company, whether it be Medicare, Medicaid, or insurance, whatever it be. So if you think about it, you think they're really paying me that much? We're just talking about seeing patients now. We're leaving out the operating and all that kind of stuff, or procedures. So if you think that I can see 4 patients in an hour, and to make up for that $400 or $500, where most hours I lost money doing that.
Seeing 4 patients per hour because it wasn't enough.
Mm-mm. because the amount of expense that you have, the reimbursement for just seeing a patient is not that great, and and so a lot of times that push doctors into getting more bullets in the note, if you know what that means. You hit more punches and and those punches and things that certain insurances or CMS guidelines requires you put in that chart in order to bigger up the visit, enhance the visit to allow for more reimbursement. Well, you're sitting there working on all the things the patient could care less about. All that you're asking a bunch of baloney just so you can fulfill a bunch of bullets. That would be like you coming in on somebody that I'd already done a full exam on you 3 months ago, and they're coming back in for a follow-up on medicine, and all of a sudden you come in and I have you get naked and I just do a whole full exam on you and ask a series of questions.
Yeah,
that's all not necessary. I mean, you think about it, but it does make the note better, and you build so
you can build the insurance.
You make the visit more complex. It's justified. It's just that unnecessary.
But then the medical practice could get more reimbursement from the insurance company. But doesn't the insurance company then charge the patient and bill the patient for that too?
Well, you're basically doing services that your insurance will pay for. Mm-hmm. So hopefully if the patient's met their deductible,
right,
they're paying our office the complexity of that visit.
But what if they haven't?
Well, that doesn't usually happen. I mean, they're going to, you'll know ahead of time if your insurance is not going to cover your visit to go see the doctor.
Right.
I mean, that'd be unusual. We would get a lot of nasty phone calls doing that. Yeah. Now, when they haven't met their deductible, it's a whole other topic. But I'm just saying, but if you've met your deductible and you go see, you already gotten pre-approved to go see a specialist, a urologist, whatever, I mean, whether it's $50 or $250 for that visit, we don't get $250 for a visit, by the way. Mm-hmm. That's known ahead of time. So the patient's not going to be responsible for that. They're going to be responsible for their copay. Mm-hmm. Whatever they come up with. That insurance might make you pay $30 to go see this specialist. Sure. They may make you say 10 or 50, but the majority of that visit is going to be the insurance paying us. Right. So the patient will get an itemized bill showing how much was paid, and what you owe or don't owe. But so we're relying on what the insurance pays, because if the patient has to be, if they end up getting the bill, it doesn't work that way. They're not going to be coming. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is when you added up the copay that the patient paid to us, required by the insurance, not by us, they set that standard, and then the insurance pays their portion they're supposed to pay of the allowable.
This all sounds so stupid and complex.
So I mean, I could charge them $500 for the visit. The allowable for that visit for that particular insurance might only be $150, and they may make the patient pay $20 of it. So it's a $150 visit.
But I mean, you got my head spinning just trying to keep up with what this is versus cash only, cash-based model. Medical practice. You don't have all these games. Go talk to the doctor. This is what it costs, and this is the prescription that he prescribed, or this is the treatment that he's suggesting you need. I mean, it seems like it's just a better way of doing it. Why do you think patients and people are so attached to whether the coverage is takes their insurance or not? Is it just because they want the insurance company? They're paying for this insurance through their paycheck, through work, or whatever. They're paying into it, so they want it to be covered, and it's just like a matter of principle, even though they could get better care. I mean, or a longer visit with the doctor, or something more comprehensive, encompassing. They have to pay out of pocket. You think it's just a cost thing for the patient?
Oh, it's way too expensive. For instance, like, okay, so you pay for this insurance. So if you're out there paying for your own private insurance, you might be paying $1,500 a month plus a $5,000 deductible, or your $13,000 deductible, which wasn't that way prior to 2014. But anyway. So their expectation is, I'm paying all this money. I really shouldn't be paying anybody any more money than what I'm paying for the premiums and all that. I mean, it's a kind of a mindset. Mm-hmm. But if at some point you're saying, well, it's worth the services of, say, you come to see me and I charged you $400 for what I consider a complex visit, and you might think it's worth $400, but you're not going to do that over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you all of a sudden needed an operation, those operations are expensive. American medicine, that's all of a sudden you're about a minimum.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the operations. I get that why you would want insurance for that. I'm just talking about going to see your primary care physician, or if you're a woman, going to see your OBGYN. Like, it seems like you've got, like you just said, you have this 15-minute window as the patient to hear and have your experience and encounter with the doctor, and already it's governed by these insurance companies, or Medicare, Medicaid, and all that, and you might get what you need out of the visit, and you may not. Versus going and seeing someone that's cash only, you're getting a qualified, skilled physician to give you just as much time as you want. It seems like it's a no-brainer, and it's not that expensive. $50 to see you for 30 minutes. That's what we charge at Mojo. That's nothing, man. $50 and then you can get your blood test done. Why aren't more people doing this, do you think? Or do you think maybe it's heading this way?
Oh, I think it's been there all along, and you see more and more of it. But I mean, I just think 95% of what people go to the doctor for is because, is my gallbladder bothering me, or if I got this spot on my skin, that might be a cancer, maybe not, those aren't cash paying services. They're too expensive. You have to go get a right upper quadrant ultrasound, or you're going to have this removed in the office, and it starts. Yeah. It never stays simple. So the majority of what goes into the medical practice, it gets expensive, and so they're expecting an insurance coverage because it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But now if somebody were to just go to somebody and say, let's say you wanted your insurance to cover a 30-minute talk with me, about losing weight and getting your erections better and your hormones better and all that kind of stuff. Well, that 30 minutes, okay, in a traditional practice, I'm only going to get so much. There's what I charge, then there's what the allowable is. That's a complicated thing. And then what the patient has to pay of that allowable, which would be the copay. It's not going to pay the expense it took me to keep open for 30 minutes. All the bells and whistles up front and the formalities, and they may even come back to me a week later and say, hey, we're not going to get paid for this because in your notes you need to put this in there for this insurance. They want to see this and all this. So now I'm back in the note and I'm doing it more. Yeah. And then I had to go through this little process of sending prescriptions through the software, and then the pharmacy calls back, well, there's a little clarification. You just run all these little things all the time in the system that bogs you up, makes you inefficient. It's expensive. Well, you'll never get paid for that 30 minutes, the amount that it cost you. So you'll be upside down. That's why there's so many people bought out by hospitals or bigger organizations, because it's a upside down business model. So in a situation like what we have, is that you don't have all that. You don't have all this. I don't have to worry about my electronic medical records of me satisfying some entity of correctness or whatever.
And the overhead and the facility cost and
right. So
utility bills.
My software is very inexpensive, and we don't have 5 or 6 people up front dealing with the intake of the patient and dealing with the patient after they leave to make sure everything's documented. We file it, submit it. We just got a set fee that's cheaper, but also they don't have a lot of expense. So I can sit there and I can just talk to you about all the little things you need and take our time. Because, if a guy came in and he weighs 250 pounds and they're worried about the erections, I just have to say, look, we got some this, we got that. I can't sit there and go, well, how come you weigh 250 pounds? Why? I can't go in the weeds with them on that. I know how to do that, but you just.
You could before, but now you can't.
Oh, yeah, I can now.
Do you feel like you have more liberty then to be the physician and doctor that you want to be in a situation like this? Or do you, it seems to me you're less mandated to a script now.
Well, let's put it this way. I can focus on the patient, on coming in and talk about what I think and what they think as a combination and what's going to make them have better health and to achieve all the things that they're missing out of life from a health perspective. I had a regimented situation back then where you came in with a problem, and we had a set thing in our guidelines, our overseeing body of my specialty, that really we kind of stayed in those guidelines. And we, for me to go into weight loss medications, or I already was pushing the envelope on how to make women's sex lives better, with some of the topical things that we did vaginally or treatments. I was already outside the guidelines doing that. I was already pushing the envelope, and, insurance won't pay for a lot of that stuff, and you just had to get a little cash pay, kind of do it on the side, but it just didn't pay to do that. And so, I would just say that we came up with a set realm of a smaller number of goals and things that we address compared to what I was in, and these are things that are real important for people, but they don't really get addressed in traditional practice. So what we did was we took out all that crazy expense, made it cash pay only, and we can really focalize our efforts on those individualized items, a smaller batch of stuff.
Well, it seems like in the cash pay world of the patient that wants to help themselves and is willing to pay the cash, and yes, it's a little bit more expensive maybe at the end of the day because insurance isn't paying for part of it, but the patients, and from what I've noticed that we're seeing, are people that are proactive about their health. It's not a reactive thing. Like you said, I'm going to the doctor because I have this, this pain in my side or this spot on my skin. That's a reactive measure by the patient. People coming to see us at Mojo are really more proactive about their health. And does that make a difference for you as a physician, talking to someone that's in there because they're willing to pay that money and they are in there to be proactive?
Yes, I would say there's a difference. Like our longevity section of what we offer. If somebody wants to come in and say, "Hey, what can I do to live longer?" And we want, I'll try to gather their labs they may have gotten from another doctor. We need to get some more labs and things like that. It ends up being a more of a enjoyable conversation where you're diving in deep to those things that can make somebody live longer. I would never do that in the traditional practice. I mean, it's just, first of all, it's outside of my guidelines, and so. So I don't really know how to answer your question in that regard. It's just that some of it is, when somebody comes in weighing 250 pounds and they want to weigh 180, okay, well, they did come in with a problem. It wasn't a proactive thing. that problem they want fixed. Or if they are a female's having discomfort with sexual activity.
Well, I still say that's proactive. Someone that wants to lose, 50 pounds, that's proactive. Like nothing's happened to them yet that they know of. They're not in there because, they have a fatty liver or something. They're in there to try and lose the weight, and maybe they've tried the diet and exercise thing, and maybe a conversation with you can help them. But I think that the proactive thing that I've seen is in this time that we've been doing this is that people are really surprised by your encouragement to get their blood work done, and then they go back and first of all they're surprised how cheap it is to get your blood work done. And then they go get the results and they're reviewing with you, and most people are surprised.
It is. I mean, it's so simple because we have a cash pay rate contracted with a lab company, and then you can just get it drawn right here, and you get a phone call or follow up fairly quick. From me. That's
not from the lab guys,
right.
Not from the nurse, from you.
Yeah, it's an extensive review of those things, and what I think is very important to address that in the traditional medicine, they may have just given you a one-canned answer. You might get a paragraph in an email that says, your vitamin D is a little low. You might want to do this. You just get a little more personalized thing. And I think we spend more time addressing some things that, from a longevity standpoint, that really hits home of things you can do to, correct some of that stuff. Like I think I had a long conversation with somebody yesterday because they were a female that was much younger than I am. They're in their 40s. And even though their creatinine, which is your crude estimate of kidney function, was normal on paper, but in the end, it was actually because of her weight and her age and all that. I'm like, it's really borderline being low, like not good. And really, I would like to see this at this number. She's like, well, I was always told the number is normal. Like, well, on the paper it's normal, yeah, but it's a little unusual for somebody your size and weight, and that just doesn't make sense to the commoner. But that person digging down deep was, eating lots of meat and a lot of sodium and things like that. And right now, it didn't really seem like much, but you do that another 15 years, and then you got some irreversible effects of that, So it's just
that's what I appreciated when I had my labs done. Is I went and talked to you about one thing that I thought was worth talking to the doctor about, and then after you got my blood work done, it was like, oh, you've got another thing to think about too. And I just love having that option. And with my primary physician that I had through my insurance company, and my doctor at the medical office building, like he was a great guy, but like we weren't in that level of detail ever. It was like, even when I had my physical when I turned 40, he's like, hey, make sure you get your blood work done. But it wasn't like, and it was up to me to go schedule and do that. And then when I got my results back, I don't remember getting a phone call. I don't remember. Like, I think it went into my portal and I had to go look it up, and it was up to me to read the results, interpret it, and then kind of go say, hey, So I just thought, and maybe that's not how every doctor's office works, but
it's probably not all of them, but just again for the efficiency of how much time it costs for you to be open every hour and what you get reimbursed. So in my experience, and I've had great doctors taking care of me, I'm just saying that, like I noticed when I get labs, they had generated answers for each abnormality that was on those results. They were accustomed. Let's say they ordered just 40 different labs. That's quite a bit, 40 different ones. And they just, with doing this so long, they had canned answers.
Right.
that they would send to you, and it was not incorrect, but it would, one, protect them legally, and two, it was an answer for a problem, and it's generated in a way that will try to prevent you from calling and exploring it further. And I hate to say it, but and that's time of efficiency where you're taking care of somebody. And but
I think that's the worst feeling you could have as a patient, is like when you feel like you're getting bullshitted. I think a lot of people have a good bullshit meter, and especially nowadays with all the information that's available on the web and everything. Like,
I'd hate to call it bullshit, and I would have to say it's a very shortened way to address an issue.
But again, it's influenced by the insurance companies.
Well, I don't want to blame them so much because there's a lot more formalities in medicine that we have to address. That's just an example that the public can see. But, there's rules of software. There's rules of the state of Georgia and being a physician. I still have to follow those here. And then there's rules of CMS guidelines. There's HIPAA and all that kind of stuff. And we have to follow some of that stuff here. But it's just a huge cage in that setting compared to this it is here. And so I would have to say that it isn't really somebody bullshitting you. I'd say it's really that it's just unfortunately shortened and simplified to keep efficiency going. And did it really help somebody truly understand their problem and know their options and things like that? And that's what I miss is, you get somebody calling back like, well, I did what I thought the message said, or I've been sitting on this message for 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh, man, we should have kind of noticed sooner.
To me, it was like, and I think that my first eye-opening experience with the whole medical, and especially the hospital system as and insurance companies, was there's a documentary called The Business of Being Born. And this was probably about 15 years ago. We were about having our first kid, and my wife showed it to me. And have you heard about Business of Being Born? Mm-mm. It's basically a documentary about how the hospitals are a business, and they're in there to pump patients and new moms in and out, and get them on the Pitocin and get them having those babies quick so they can get the next one in there. And it wasn't so much about the patient care; it was more about the dollars of it and everything like that. And it kind of opened my eyes to other stuff. But I think, to me, it feels like there's many Americans that are jaded by the healthcare industry in America, and especially the insurance company. So I guess to tee it up maybe to you, why from a medical and professional standpoint, why did you leave your practice, and why did you want to come and do something more? I know you called it your private practice. This is also a private practice. What was the impetus of that?
Well, as I would tell the people that I used to work with, there's a tall stack of those reasons. But a lot of it had to do with just quality of life, stress. I was operating all the time. And, it's weird. It's just like every day at work, I was constantly reminded by my surroundings of everything I was doing wrong. It was hard to accept the rewards you got. I mean, there was a lot of great patients. They were very thankful, and they were out there. It's just the headache was unbelievable, and I'd been in practice there for a long time, so I had a huge practice. I mean, I show up at work, and it's amazing the little the complaints of this and that, and almost all that stuff was out of my control.
From patients or from coworkers of yours? Or?
Patients, or we had some problems up front where there was not getting paid, and. There was a procedure I've been doing for over 20 years, and it was the darndest thing. I constantly was told to document it different every time. When you're going to do this surgery, you need to document this and this. And I'm like, all right, just another set of rules. And it would only work for this insurance company, and it had to be different for this one. And it was a very expensive item. Yeah. And then I found out that, in order for me to do this test for that surgery, I had to do a little test in my office, and you had to buy this little thing. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want the public to know what I'm talking about, because I don't want to rag on the company because it's nobody's fault. But I had to purchase that thing to do the test. And it was about $1,000. But we pre-approve that test all the time ahead of time. So, hey, we need to pre-approve this test, and they may have to go on and get this very expensive operation. Yeah. And so I do that test, and then I'd go on and do the surgery on that. But later on, I'd get denied on, even though they approved it, and they paid it. Yeah. And then 3 months later, without us knowing it, they go in their account and they clawed it back without us knowing it. So I end up paying.
What do you mean clawed it back?
Clawbacks, they called them now.
What's that?
Where they could go back and just, even though they gave you the money, they came back and took it away.
Like they went into your bank account?
Yeah, they end up saying that you owe it, so they had ways of doing it, because all this stuff is electronic now.
Into the medical practice's bank account?
Mm-hmm. They withdraw funds.
Insurance companies can do that?
I'm not going to get specifics on who can do that.
But someone can do that.
But basically what it is even though I got approved with the patient, and it didn't affect the patient, it affected me.
Yeah.
Because I ended up buying that supply. And so basically I ended up paying for that.
So over time, this just kind of ate it.
Well, that's just one example. It's the idiocy of how I've been doing it for so long. And I always constantly remind, well, you're not documenting this right away. How do I need to document it now? So I'm doing it wrong. There's
other industries like that. It seems like in general.
But it come out of my pocket.
Yeah. Things that used to be easier or harder, even though everything that is invented technologically is supposed to make our lives easier, it seems like it always get harder, more and more red tape. And that's what I like about Mojo is talking to you is that, yes, it's cash-based, but all of that goes away. I mean, it's a very simple transaction. I think people are dumbfounded sometimes when they come in. It's like, I just go talk to the doctor and I pay you the fee, and it's based on the time and the thing that was.
Well, I'm not stressed because one is my beeper. I stopped wearing a beeper a year ago. I had a beeper all these years. That would go off, or I have two doctors calling me.
The doctor still had even though pagers died in the 90s.
Oh, I had one up till.
Was still
I had one till a year ago.
Wow, they didn't improve on that technology there.
Well, see, now you're getting into another thing that used to drive me crazy. So cell phones are a complex device. And you would get this stuff like, I've been texting you, and I'm like, no, you haven't. Or, yes, I have. No, you haven't. Or the phone was down, or there was something wrong with the signal. I mean, it's all this. So it's funny now when you text or call somebody now that it's a given in medicine. Like, well, I didn't see my phone go off, or it's acceptable now. Like,
beeper's proven.
The beeper was unforgiving. You could be at the bottom of the ocean, that darn thing would go up and say, no, you call me here. This is the time I got the page, and I called you right back. It was very foolproof. So I'm sorry, but anyway. So, but I could go between patients just being in the office, and all of a sudden I've got two colleagues of mine that I love dearly, or something, or that I could pick that are, hey, I got a patient here you've been seeing. I need to talk to you about it. The stuff would just stack up in between, so now I'm rushed, and all of a sudden two or three people show up about 20, 30 minutes late. And then that affects the person down the aisle there that has an appointment. I would be eating into this part. I'd be eating into this guy's appointment because this one over here.
God, yeah.
Or because I got two phone calls over here. And so it was so complex. It was constantly a barrage of stuff.
Oh, man. Waiting in the doctor's office as a patient, it's the worst. You just never know when you're going to.
There might be a guy I operated on a week ago, and I'm not even on call, but I'm in the office, and I'm doing these elaborate little procedures, whatever, but they've got their family there, and hey, so-and-so's in the emergency room, and I got to hear from third hand how, I don't know whether they're really sick or they're bad. So I got to stop what I'm doing, and I got to go check on it because it's the right thing to do, and I want to go do it, but it wrecks the whole day. So now I'm rushed and I'm running, and I'm stressed out, and I may have to call their family member in California to explain what's going on with their mom, or and all those things are necessary. But here we are. We're in this framework of time and what's costing me from 8 to 5 over there. Yeah. And I'm backed up, and this family's getting frustrated over here, and I got pulled away because it's not like me. I've got these nice clothes on, which I didn't do that, because I'm usually going in and out of scrubs. Also, I got blood on my hands. Now I'm going over here to talk about somebody and their bad diagnosis of cancer because they got a biopsy 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So you just running from one element. You got to look sophisticated and rested. You can't be disheveled and you got,
man.
You know what I'm talking about? It's just you go from one element to the next, and you just, after a while, you're like, I don't look sophisticated anymore. Right. I'm starting to look like the guy that comes in with a messy hair, hadn't shaved in 5 days, and, I'm just putting out bombs. Right. And, and all of a sudden, if I want to turn around and talk about, hey, somebody, I see a patient and they had a sick loved one that I may have seen them too, but also I need to talk with them about their sex life and all that kind of stuff, and you just got thrown out of a disaster over here.
That's tough.
It's just, tough. And then you're behind, and so after a while, you're like, oh my gosh.
Someone's telling you you're not doing your notes right.
And then I finally get home to that's right. That's right. Or, your documentation was messed up, you're not going to get paid, or, all of a sudden you got a note from the hospital, like,
Did you ever have time for yourself, like diet and exercise in your own?
Oh, no, I was that. When I get in a little circle, if my friends are watching this and they can relate to me, so I'm not picking on anybody in particular, but, you walk into that doctor's lounge in the surgical area, like, oh, I'm living the dream, man. You living the dream? Oh yeah, they just said, yeah, we're living the dream, and there was no workout freaks in there. Yeah. Nobody truly paid. You get a guy over here drinking a Monster, and he's got all these canned goods, and he's eating. None of them were the pinnacle of their own health.
Right.
They're just running from one place to the next. And so when I'd get home, I eat dinner, and my wife just considered me a space cadet. I mean, I couldn't get out of that mode. I mean, then I lay in bed at night, and I'm still just thinking about all this stuff. Did I forget this?
Sure.
Oh man, I think I forgot to call this guy.
His buck stops with you.
It does. Surgery, right? It just so rushed and so scrambled that you're like, I don't think I sent in that prescription I was supposed to send in to somebody. You're like, oh yeah, it's just so you just can't relax. And that's what my wife always said. The rare times we go on vacation, it'd take me about 3 days to become, hey, you're the guy I married many, many years ago. It took about 3 days into it to get out of that mode. Yeah. And plus, my wife would be telling me stuff all day, and my kids, and I don't even remember saying it to me because I was just in this thing. So anyway, I'm not saying every physician's job's like that in the traditional medicine world, but it got.
Well, how many patients were you seeing a day?
Not very many. I was the least in the group. I'd sometimes see 25.
25 to me sounds like a lot a day.
Oh man, that's the low end.
What were some of your colleagues seeing?
30, 35. I even had some that would come through our practice that'd see up to 40.
And how many working hours is that? If you're seeing 25 patients a day, is that an 8-hour day? Is that a 10-hour day?
We all had different schedules. I'd start at 8. And then I'd be leaving 5 or after, and then I'd operate at night. I did that all the time just because I couldn't get it all done in my regular OR schedule. But
were you ever on call on the weekends?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I did that for you. I was on call every Thursday night. I still have anxiety on Wednesday nights when I try to go to sleep. It's still weird because I did that for over 20 years.
Really? You have Wednesday night anxiety?
It's weird. It's just built into me.
So you don't have the Sunday scares. You have the Wednesday worries.
Well, interesting enough, I used to do a lot of fun stuff with my kids and go do venturesome stuff on the weekends. And I used to do all the big cancer operations on Monday, and we have a wonderful guy who took that over, several years ago. But, it was for many years that, those Sunday nights, I was trying to rest up from all the excitement and entertaining my kids and going on vacation, trying to do these little mini, fun excursions on the weekend and then come back to work. And then all of a sudden, I'm just thinking about all the things I need to make sure we have for tomorrow. And, I'm in a different mode now. Some guys and gals thrive on that kind of thing. They just live for it. They come in and just breathe it. I mean, it just.
How many people were employed over at that medical clinic? Like, how many people were on your team? 10, 20, 30?
That's about off and on, part-time and full-time. It could be up to 35. 35. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm not complaining about any of those people. I miss all those people.
Well, they gave you a big send-off. They had a big. I remember seeing the pictures.
Yeah, it was.
Meaning you didn't leave because it was not amicable. You left because you were fried out and wanted something different.
Yeah, those
guys really liked you.
For me, it was wearing me down, and it was just a lot of things I had a hard time enjoying anymore. I mean, I may have done up to 1,000 slings. Incontinence surgery for women. That was one of my best skills, was doing that.
Wow.
And
1,000 of them?
I don't know. I probably did 50 or 60 a year, and I was doing it for a long time. Wow. So, and then I'm just guessing. I never kept track, but I was
kind of weird, I guess. You had a tally on your wall at home for every sling you did.
Yeah, the sling king. I mean, I'm just being cute, but I'd done so many of those, and I had actually, I actually fixed a lot of those that got messed up. That was part of my job. I get them from North Alabama and North Georgia a lot, and so really, I mean, it doesn't really matter how good you are either. The better you are doesn't make it more rewarding. You could be terrible at it, but you may just love it. See them getting that. And
you mean as a surgeon or as
a surgeon or any kind of doctor? You might be a crappy doctor, but you love being there and doing it. Then you got some that just love it so much, but they just don't. I'm sorry. They're exceptionally good from an outside perspective, but they just don't love it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it started to wear me down.
Well, I noticed that about you, is that you're very passionate. When you're here and you're talking about this stuff, you love it. And I've been, as a patient, you're talking to the doctor that's just fried out, and you can just tell he doesn't love what he's doing. He's not. I question the care I'm getting because he just looks exhausted and tired, and no one wants that. You don't even want that out of your bartender. You want someone with energy, especially if they're taking care of your health.
It's interesting you say that way. I can speak to reference to the guy, one of the partners I worked with for years. You might be exhausted. There's some people that they might get exhausted. They might just be, but it's just absolutely automatic, built into certain people's personality that they can't help but do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
They just they can't help it. But some, the mistakes and the problems come with their exhaustion. But there's just some people that, yeah, that's the reason you can't sleep at night, is because you're just so worried you did the right thing all day long. And that was probably one of my pitfalls of that, was that I could never let it go. I was constantly worried about it. And, so, some people are better fit than others, at certain things. But anyway, overall, it's a joy to take care of patients and to get into the science and talk about all that kind of stuff. And it's just, the amount, and this is the advertisement or the statement on our website, and I've said it before, is that, when you go in to see a doctor, about 80% of the efforts are not for you. They're for the system.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
I mean, it's just so much, and here I'm just sitting there thinking, well, I document what I do. I do a little exam and we put this and that, but I'm not sitting there just going like, well, did I talk to her today about smoking? Did I talk to them about the last time they got the pap smear, the mammograms? And those are important things that we just fill out on a questionnaire, but we don't have a conversation about that. I don't have to worry about the MIPS criteria, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. I mean, because somebody's looking at all my reports to make sure I'm doing all that. The patient doesn't care about that stuff.
Right.
They come in, they want to get an answer, and they want to get treated, and they go.
Sure.
So it's just packaged up so small on my perspective. I've have to do so much. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot less. It's really a lot more focused on me taking care of somebody. It really is what it is.
What do you think? And as far as patients being proactive about their health, why do you think more people, especially Americans, aren't proactive about their health? Why do you think so much of it is after something happens? Maybe it's a little mini stroke or a heart attack, or they get some really bad results back. Why aren't more people proactive? Because it seems like it's so easy, and it can be so beneficial to someone's health.
It is, but I would have to say, probably from a worldly perspective, most people in general aren't proactive. It doesn't have anything to do with cost. I mean, you can even go to a system in another country where, their health care is free. I mean, I'd have to say the health care in the United States is better than anywhere else. I don't know, I can take that on with anybody, but it's not like those people are constantly worried about their health proactively necessarily. They're just living. Mm-hmm. They're just living. But their environment might be already such that it's healthy. Mm-hmm. There's lack of stress. Doesn't have the stress, doesn't have the multitasking. They're not surrounded by just god-awful food. They're eating vegetables, and they're not eating all this hamburger and french fries every day or once a week or twice a week, and all this easily available food that we have, and easily available cigarettes that are affordable, and things like that. I mean, other countries, those things just aren't even available.
So that's part of it then, is the government should be making it harder to get cigarettes and alcohol and fast food.
This is America, so everything is right at our fingertips. So we're surrounded by this culture of things that aren't good for us, and we're used to getting the things we want. I'm just not making fun of America, but this is the land where you get pretty much most everything you want. If you want to, I'm in the mood for a hot apple pie. I'm going to go down to that fast food place, and I'm going to get that darn thing. And in the end, it's not that expensive.
Right.
Right. Let's say I'm in the mood for dipping a little tobacco. Heck, I'm going to go down there, and I'm just going to go buy it. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And it's just, we want it, we go get it, and we're used to getting things we want. And so after a while, you're not used to building up walls of structure to do the right and the wrong thing. And I'm not making fun of Americans, but it's just the way we are.
Do you think the government should be more heavy-handed in that and making it harder to get that apple pie, or to get the vaping pens, or to get the red dye number 5, and by banning some of this stuff that is outlawed in other countries? Or do you think it's up to each person to be responsible to their own body and health?
Yeah, I think the freedoms need to be there for sure. That's just you're getting it outside of medicine. I think the freedoms should all be there, but I think there should be an emphasis much younger in part of our culture about recognizing the things that will shorten your lifespan. Right. Your blood pressure. I mean, there's all kind of guys who go.
So someone is in that teenager to early 20s range. What are the things they're consuming that they're not thinking about at all because they're invincible, right? That are starting to really affect their long-term health?
No, they just, you get an excessive amount of sodium and saturated fat, preservatives, that are in food. Unfortunately, the food that's very readily available and inexpensive is those things. They got a lot of sodium in them. They got a lot of preserves. They got a lot of.
You talking about fast food or like
just
snacks and stuff?
Oh, cafeteria food. You're going to get it out of a can.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're getting. I mean, and it has to be affordable for everybody. They got to eat, and.
Yeah, so like at school, like the school hot lunches.
It is, but even at home, I mean, you got single parent moms.
Yeah.
They just got to get things done. They can't sit there and food prep all day long.
Yeah.
And then you got two people working out of the house, and it's expensive to eat healthy. I mean, it's not cheap, and. So, I mean, I don't have the answer to a lot of what you're asking. I just think that, from early on, we're doing stuff that's bad.
No, you're wearing a white coat. You need the answer to everything I ask.
Some of it just be opinion, but some of it is just sad reality of our American culture. I mean, just eating 3 meals a day, I think, is bad, honestly. And that's a whole other thing I talk about with my patients. We shouldn't be eating 3 meals a day all day long and every day, and eating snacks and stuff like that. I mean, that does a lot. That's not good. It really, there needs to be a change in that. And the amount of sodium that we eat is just ungodly. Over time, that's a real challenge for your kidney. Your kidney has to dump all that sodium. I mean, you could go eat 3,000 milligrams of that at your age, and you'll take care of it. Your kidneys will get rid of it.
Right.
But, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And that takes a toll on you. You eating all this protein. It's just Americans got this big fad. They got to have protein. I mean, everything is, they brag about how much protein is in there. What? Do you really need that much protein?
Apparently I do. If I want to add muscle. No, I'm serious.
Well, it was meant to be rhetorical. You didn't have to answer, but
I'm telling you, I should, right? Isn't to build muscle as a man. I know I need my protein shakes. I need my protein smoothies. I need my chicken breast at night. Are you saying that might be too much?
Well, okay, so they've done some studies where, you eat a lot of protein like that and just eating meat and things like that. It'll make your growth hormone and insulin growth factor go up. Those are those things that just make you more bigger. You can build more muscle and do all that kind of stuff. But what's the downside of that, though? I mean, you've got a ton of this protein load that you're probably not going to use at all. Uh-huh. I don't really think you can. I don't think you're working out hard enough that you can drink a milk product that's already been, all the lactose been taken out, it's been filtered. That's why you can buy it hot on the shelf.
Right.
And it's got 42 grams of protein in that little bottle like that.
Yeah.
Do you really think?
You saw me having one yesterday.
No. Absolutely, I did not. Actually, you were drinking something, but I didn't pay attention to what was on it, though.
Yeah.
But I just see them in the store, and I'm very familiar with that product because I used to talk to people about drinking this other product that used to have a little bit of protein in it, and it got outclassed by those newer ones. So anyway, that's why I use the word 42. But anyway, I mean, I work out a little bit.
Yeah.
But am I going to use 42 grams of protein per meal for that workout?
I
No.
don't know.
It's rhetorical again. I'm going to answer myself.
Maybe, but I'm telling you, I don't think the average guy knows how much protein they use when they're working out. They know how much they need.
I mean, they're really breaking down that much muscle in a workout, and they need all that protein in there and the glucose in order to get absorbed in the muscle and build that muscle and repair it. Mm-hmm. Really, over 100 grams of protein a day? I mean, really? No.
But if you don't use all the protein, too much protein is not health-wise bad for you, is it?
I would recommend against it.
Because why?
It's a challenge to your kidneys. You're going to break all that down. You're going to get an acid load, and your kidney's going to have to handle all that.
So it could have long-term effects
on that,
on your kidneys. And
have you ever read up on, like, okay, I'm going old school on you here, but there's even newer information, but the China diet or the China study and all that kind of stuff? Well, I mean, I'll make it real small, but it's like eating all that animal protein.
Yeah.
Animal protein causes inflammation. Mm-hmm. It causes heart disease and all the inflammatory effects, all that it actually will shorten your lifespan.
Even if it's just chicken and it's not red meat?
The difference between chicken and red meat, they have a lot of the same protein makeups, essential amino acids. I wasn't prepared to talk about all this, so you're getting me on the fly here. I like it.
I don't take notes.
So I mean, they both have a lot of essential amino acids to build muscle and all that, but it's just the red meat and the hamburger's got way more saturated fat than that chicken breast, even though it's got it too. So people need to realize you can get a fresh, free-range chicken. It's still going to have saturated fat in that chicken breast. So But that's the same problem. It's that your kidneys, for one, can't tell whether you ate a greasy hamburger or some fresh salmon out of a river, freshly caught. I mean, your kidney can't tell the difference. Protein's protein. Now, your cardiovascular element of all the saturated fat and your cholesterol and all that, now, it's going to be worse with you eating, sausage in the morning.
So all these guys on the keto diet, and ladies, the keto diet, you would say, because that's all protein, right?
A lot of it in fat. Keto has a lot. Now, Atkins is a lot of protein. Now, keto, you're throwing in the fat with it.
Mm-hmm. So long term, yay or nay?
Oh, that's fine short term, but long term, nah, I'm not a fan of that. You're not going to get that recommendation from me. If you want to do it at intervals, short intervals here and there, mm-hmm. And some people say it does help with the inflammation, but for a different reason than the other. So, but no, I don't think there's a good long term benefit of that. I mean, all the people that I saw in my office that were 95 years old that were healthy and still thriving.
What were they doing?
Oh, yeah, these people were not jacked up on protein all day. They weren't overeating and eating all this stuff and working out crazy. Those people are the ones that remain small. They never overindulged in food and all that kind of stuff. And I can give you a bunch of articles on just calorie restriction in general and how that transcribes these genes that we have on calorie restriction just to make the longevity genes and autophagy and things like that make you live longer. That's been proved in all kind of rats and yeast and all these kind of things, and they're doing studies left and right on that. And now the fasting puts another element in there. You're like, well, how does that? I don't understand. I mean, what is protein on it? Well, you don't need all that stuff. If you're working out moderately, I mean, you can fast and get enough protein to do all that kind of stuff. But if you're like trying to, be in competitive sports and where you're burning 1,500 calories a day, I mean, okay, all right. Now you might be using some of that stuff, but the common person that just works out a little and, they're trying to live a long time and, you don't need all that stuff. That's crazy. I think there's a lot of problem with lots of protein.
So for the guy that's a 25-year-old man or woman that's taken all that protein and is lifting weights and is trying to get jacked, I mean, the people that have gotten jacked, right? That you can see they're muscular, they're in shape, and they're taking that protein. Are you saying that it's not the protein that's doing that, if they stopped taking those protein shakes and supplements, they would not have that muscle, or they would, or like at the end of the day, how much do you think the protein shakes help them?
Okay, that's a mixed question. So for one is you're saying they're in shape, and you would
the ones that have had the results.
Visibly have the results. Visibly. Now, are they cardiovascularly in that great of health? That's the thing. Is do you really think all those people that walk around with their veins poking out and they're just jacked, as you said? I mean, do you think they're healthy cardiovascularly? Do their arteries look good? I mean, have they already got some plaques on them or some fatty streaks, they used to call them, in youth? Those are precursors to having disease later.
Which is a byproduct of the protein, is what you're saying?
No, that would be a byproduct of eating the saturated fat and the cholesterol and all that kind of stuff.
What if they're not? I mean, I knew guys in college that had broccoli and they had a protein shake, and then for dinner they had broccoli and chicken breast.
So it's a complex question. So you're asking about the being jacked and healthy, and the protein versus saturated fat. This is all mixed up. So, but what I'm saying to you is that you earlier asked about the youth and being healthy. All those things that I was telling you, like that tons of protein and tons of sodium, and eating preservative and all that. That answers that question. That's unhealthy. Now, when you get the guy that's in the gym. We're talking about guys, there's also gals, that are truly working on a musculature, bulk, and looking ripped and jacked, okay? Well, those people typically aren't doing tons of cardiovascular stuff. And, they're eating lots of protein and a few carbs, and they got this real strict diet in order to build muscle to look like that. Yeah, that builds muscle. Yeah. They might be taking creatine. They might be doing other things to really take advantage. Well, they are sculpting their body. Yeah. To get that look. What I'm saying to you is that, those are the items that are going to get them there. You're eating lots of protein. You're eating a lot of meat, and that broccoli is a vegetable that doesn't have a lot of carbs, and that's a perfect complement to that kind of a diet. No, they're not getting white bread, and they're not putting tons of ketchup on that they're dipping in because it's got a bunch of sugar. So, I mean, to get that look, there's a particular diet to do that. Now, is that healthy long term? Would I say that from a longevity standpoint? No. No, it achieved what they're trying to get there.
Right.
So when you come to see me, I can advise you on how to build muscle, all that. But now, in the end, don't you want to live a long time? And when you're 70 years old, I've talked to a lot of the elderly. You know, I mean, those people I have seen in my career. It's not like they look back and go, man, I should have eaten some more steak and should have gotten my biceps bigger. I should have done that.
Yeah.
They don't care about that at that point in life. That is not what they want. Is
Yeah.
thriveness, healthiness. They want to be able to get off the floor. They want the energy to go do that. They don't want a whole bunch of chronic diseases. They don't have any regrets that they didn't have the biggest biceps when they were 25 years old. Yeah. Nobody's ever talking about that.
Well, it's funny you're saying that because a guy in his 20s or 30s isn't going to think that, right? They want to be fit now and attract the ladies, and they want to be looking good. And, we talk about Arnold all the time. Schwarzenegger's like, in his 20s, he's doing all this stuff. But now, isn't he a vegan or a vegetarian? He's sworn off meat.
Yeah.
And
I'd say that Arnold Schwarzenegger is the exception to a lot of rules. He's quite fortunate, and I'm not attacked. It's kind of like, do you want? There's a lot of people say, I'm going to go that route. I'm quite sure that there was some other use of stuff to make you that big and competitive. You can't follow all the legal rules to get there.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't want to get in that because I'm a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger, yeah. But I'm just using that he's probably. Because people say, like, well, I want to do all that too. Look how much money he's at. Look how popular he is. He was surrounded by women. He was famous, blah, blah. I want to be like that too. Well, look how many people die young going down that path.
Mm-hmm. What do you think they're dying of? Just taking all that stuff.
Oh, cardiomyopathy, strokes, huge inflammatory pericarditis. The list goes on.
From taking what? Too much what? Or not enough what?
Well, we're getting into the weeds now, but I mean,
we're in the weeds. This is the name of the podcast.
Well, I don't want to insult particular people about what they're doing. I'm just saying, some of those gym rats. I mean, they're taking way too much steroids, testosterone. Okay. They're taking a lot of things to enhance growth hormone. And
JC, you prescribe testosterone and Mojo.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you
appropriately?
Appropriately.
Yeah, at the right levels.
So a guy that's taken too much just for the wrong reasons, for vanity, is not someone that you would prescribe testosterone to at Mojo.
No, I would do it. I would check the levels. I would put what I consider a healthy balance of those that need it. You get some people in here, their testosterone is extremely high. You're like, okay. But the problem is we can't measure their receptors. I'm going to throw that out there. You can't measure a guy's receptors. Somebody might have poor receptors and a lot of testosterone, and they're not getting the benefit from their own testosterone. So that's a conversation for another day. But we would monitor it and do what's healthy, because if you overdo the testosterone over time, it's not a balanced system. Yeah. You could cause a lot of harm, cardiovascular stuff.
At a young age.
Yeah, it's going to take a toll later. Yeah. And, you really got the system out of balance. And, you could have a long-term. You see a lot of people who have done that. They've got problems with their aorta. They got valve issues. And, you can't study those people because you really don't know what else they were doing in addition to testosterone, so it's not really fair. They could be doing growth hormone. They could be growth factors. They could be doing, things, stimulants and things like that.
When you see a patient like that in your office, do you ever worry that you're not getting the whole truth from them on what they're taking, and that, do you have any nerves about that, giving them the wrong prescription because you don't think you have the full medical history of them, or is that?
Oh, yeah, they could be lying. It's a lot harder, though. A lot of these pharmacies talk now. Used to, you'd get a guy that was getting testosterone from this doctor, and then he was getting it from this doctor. Uh-huh. And, they were stacking it up. No different than narcotics. They did that for years, Now it's harder to do that stuff. But,
really? So a pharmacy like a big chain pharmacy X can talk to big chain pharmacy Y?
Oh, it's all record. And this system in the state of Georgia, like for narcotics and things like that, oh, yeah, they'll send you a report.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Now, but
send the patient the report or the physician?
Physician.
Oh,
yeah. I get emails. I mean, I don't anymore because I'm not in private practice, but I got emails daily from this. Yeah,
it's like a warning from the.
Mm-hmm. You realize this person has this famous, and then they got over here, and then we get all this stuff on testosterone.
Oh, so someone's looking after that.
Yeah,
I don't know if that happens.
But you have to realize, though, the ones that you're speaking of, and I'm not criticizing those. A lot of those are not going through.
Yeah.
The healthcare system to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no, I can't track that. I can't find that anywhere. So that's not a big issue that I have, though.
Yeah.
I mean, about somebody cheating me. I mean, I mean, I know I've been deceived many times, but I'm not even worried about that. I mean, and I'm not making fun of that. That there are people who want certain things out of life, and I may not agree with what that is, but I won't be the doctor that's going to get you all jacked up like that. Right. I'm going to get it to where I can improve your musculature to your fat ratio and get your cardiovascular health and try to get you to live a long time. That's the whole thing. I mean, it's like the latest books out on health span, not just lifespan, but health span. I mean, you can wear yourself out. Don't be a short fuse is what I say. Don't be, when you're 20s and 30s and you're doing all that to look amazing and you see these guys working out and they got this bulk. When you get to be after 40, that bulk, it doesn't look too bulky anymore because when you're younger, the fat in your body takes on the shape of your muscle. So you look good, but when you get a little older...
That's why I never got strong.
Because that's what you need to tell everybody, right? Well, I do always got. Oh, but I've seen it time. Then you try to start losing that weight. You're like, man, the fat. Even though I might have as much body fat as I did 5 years ago, it doesn't look the same. Yeah. So your bulkiness is not as attractiveness. Then you're like, well, man, I've got.
I know the older guy you're talking about. The guy in his late 50s, 60s, even later in life, and. You could tell they used to be super strong, and maybe they still do lift, but you're right. It's kind of
it's much harder because as you get older, your metabolism changes. The things that are going on upstairs in your central axis that I say signals the rest of your body, it's not putting out the signal as much anymore. And of course your testosterone, and for men and women, is going down, and so you got all these things that make it to where. You don't have the advantage you had when you were young to get away with doing a lot of that stuff. You can't tolerate the sodium. You can't tolerate those heavy protein loads anymore. Sorry. Right. You can't handle the amount of, bread that you ate. You can't eat that bowl of ice cream every night. You can't eat the peanut butter with multiple tablespoons with tons of sugar on it, at night. That's a big, it stinks. Yeah. I don't have a shot where you can come in and say, hey, if I give you the shot for a couple weeks, you're good. You're fixed. No, that balance will always be off. You'll have to supplement it in a safe way. Right. To make the quality of your life better, and then you can go.
But it starts with a step. I mean, the patient needs to take that first step, even though it might be a hard one.
It is, and our culture. This is going back to some of your earlier questions. Our culture already regimens us on bad habits. It really does. Going from the Pop-Tart that's available in the store to the sugary cereals. To the amount of sodium that's in French fries and everything else that we eat, we're accustomed to that sodium. I mean, we don't need all that sodium. Yeah. We eat way more sodium than we're supposed to. Yeah. And, we get trained in that, and that's our culture. It's, and we multitask, and you got so many things going on that, I have an example I'll give you. And maybe I've told you this example before. But, when I was in my late 30s and early 40s, when I was establishing my job and I was making some decent money, I had kids, and they'd go to bed. I had to live busy days. I'd drink a half a pot of coffee when I got home from work just so I could get up. I'd make sure I was on the floor playing with my kids because it was hard. I was tired. Yeah. And then, they'd go to bed at 7:30, 8:30, and, that was my time. Yeah. I had a couple of hours to do all the cool things I would do. And, no, I didn't waste my time to go to a gym or I didn't go to a bar or hang over, this, that.
You want to do what you want to do.
I got in my basement. And this is the honest truth. I got in my basement. I was so starved for time that this is what I would do. I'd had an exercise bike down there, and I had TVs going and an awesome stereo system, and I'd be drinking beer and exercising, and I'd have the TV turned down and the stereo blasting on my favorite songs, and I'd have a laptop on the internet, and so I would do all that within a couple of hours. I'd get a couple of beers down. I was watching TV. I would have the fights turned on with the volume down. I had my favorite music playing. I'd get all that done. Yeah. And that's America. We just multitask so much that the little things like, well, how much sodium was in that little thing that I just ate? I get people and I sit there and I talk to them about what's on that label. I mean, you're not paying attention to those things. You're far beyond that. Yeah. You're multitasking you're at a higher level of doing all these things that Americans are expected to do. And so those little simple things, you're in a habit now that, for me to get somebody to skip breakfast now, I mean, that's a hard thing to do. To get them to fast for a short period of time. I mean, you've been doing that your whole life, and we don't need to be eating 3 meals a day and then snacking in between. There's a lot of literature behind that. It's just terrible for you. And so, I mean, I can sit down and I can explain to you why that is. I've listened to enough podcasts and researched it on my own, and then if you come see me, I'll dummy it down for you, or I can send you as much as you want. But the American culture is killing us. Yeah. And I'm here to try it in my best to simplify that for you to live longer and be some muscle and your sexual life to thrive, and to keep your memory, keep all those things going, cut down on your inflammation. But a lot of that takes a constant regimen of some prescriptions and coaching. And
well, it takes discipline. The person has to be disciplined. They have to be proactive.
It's very hard to do that in a traditional medicine practice, to really focus on that. And it's just that structure that it is what it is, and it's meant to put out some fires, some big fires. People need to be thankful that we can put out the best fires here in medicine, okay? But when it comes down to preventative medicine and, to sit down and talk about the really things that bother you every day, things that keep your relationship together, things that make you live a long time, to keep our memories, and we are losing our memories so bad.
Yeah.
Nobody's got a finger on why that is. I have my philosophies on it, which I don't want to talk about those now. We can do another podcast, but I'm here to talk about those things that I'm just studying all the time that I want to share with you.
Well, now are you surprised that your appointments are going 45 minutes instead of 30? You want to shut up, man.
I know. Well, but it's interesting because I'm talking and I answer their questions, and then I end up having to kind of cut it off because I'll see on their questionnaire coming in the things they're interested in. I can't get to them all.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't. I get to the top ones. I'm like, let's get these fixed, and I want to talk about these more on the next one. Let's hammer it all, but we just can't do it all in one day. To really, fill their mind with the answers they wanted. So no, I enjoy it.
No question. But let's put a pin in it for today. We're gonna do this again, but I think it's great, and it's a great way to bring kind of full circle why you left and why you're doing what you're doing with Mojo. But it sounds like you got tons of energy. How old are you again?
I'm 54.
Yeah, you got time.
How old do I look?
You look about 52.
Well, in response to everything we've said today, I'll just say again that my past was, I know I helped a lot of people out. I did my best, and I worked with great people. I miss my nurses. I miss a lot of the stuff. I miss taking care of the things in that, but that structure after a while got old for me.
Yeah.
And my wife saw it, and I could have done this till I was 65, but I think it would have shortened my lifespan.
Yeah.
That's what it was going to do.
Yeah.
And I think some guys could have handled it, and they say, why didn't you just slow down? You couldn't. You couldn't slow it down. It was just, and so I was sad to let all that go. But I've stepped into a new stage in my life to help people in a different way. I've just got a lot of experience, and I'm hoping to use that.
Oh, totally.
In a way that I can help others out and do it to where I live a healthy lifestyle myself.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that that you're still helping people, and they're here now. They're the people that you're helping. Maybe you're not helping that person over there. You're helping this person over there, but you're still helping people. And I know that it was an emotional goodbye for you, leaving where you came from, and a lot of old friends and faces there. And but man, you've already got some new people that are loving you.
Oh yeah.
Here in the clinic, so which I'm not surprised at. But cool. So we'll do this next week. We'll be back again talking to Dr. Collison here, outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you very much. Everybody have a good weekend.
Cheers.